Lalia moved as if to jump out of the bush and attack, but she saw Kubra shake her head, silently urging her to stay in hiding. She then decided to run back to the baby, where her help is needed and most likely to make a difference. When she arrived, she found that the baby was taken, and this drove her wild. She was already heartbroken from helplessly looking on as Kubra was being taken away, but this was enough to drive her to complete madness. As she aimlessly searched through the surrounding woods, weeping her heart out, she heard a voice call out to her. It was Akwala, assuring her that the baby was fine and safe. He told her that he had taken her to protect her from the clutches of the priest and his minions. He did not want them hearing the baby cry. As she took the baby from where Akwala hid her, Lalia could tell that the spirit was also affected by the smoke from Kunja's fire. He ordered her to take the baby out of the bush to protect her from the awful smoke. To this, Lalia disagreed, defiantly insisting on following the priest to make sure that Kubra was alright. And besides, the smoke was slowly disappearing, losing its effect. Lalia notified, happily observing the baby. "I want Kubra to know that her baby girl is alive." The baby had started sobbing. As Lalia worriedly gazed at her, she was struck by the beauty that radiated from the child. "By the gods, she is beautiful." Lalia gasped as she held her closer to her chest while she continued to gaze upon her wee face, still admiring her. "She cries so beautifully too. Her mother needs to know. She needs to choose a fitting name for her." And Akwala could tell Lalia was excited about the baby, despite their current predicament. Akwala quickly reminded her of all the trouble she could cause to both herself and Kubra. The priest will kill Lalia and he will start having doubts about Kubra being a native of Njeli, and for this reason, kill Kubra as well. What they did not know was that the priest had already begun having his doubts about Kubra's origins. But since the full moon was fast approaching, he just assumed that the witch had probably held them captive for her upcoming sacrifice. Akwala continued to warn the witch against attempting to save Kubra, but his words fell on deaf ears. Lalia was deep in thought by now, dreaming of ways to save the slave girl without bringing her to harm. As she contemplated her next course of action, an idea came to her. She hatched a plan to communicate with Kubra in her dreams. This way they can meet and talk without the risk of being caught by anyone. Upon hearing this, Akwala was excited and without hesitation helped Lalia reach out to Kubra by using some of Kubra's blood that covered the baby. Lalia and Akwala watched the priest and his guards from where they stood in the forest. This was possible because of Kubra's presence around them. They had just arrived at the priest's compound and the guards carefully laid the slave girl on the mattress under the big tree in the compound. The compound was quite big and it stood at the entrance of Kingdom Njeli. Kubra listlessly lay on the mattress. She was rather too weak to talk. She had her eyes closed, so Lalia didn't waste any time in getting in. "Kubra, it is me, Lalia. Can you hear me?" she whispered. Kubra was startled when she heard Lalia's voice and was just about to open her eyes to see if she was around when Lalia warned her not to. Lalia explained to her that she was telepathically communicating with her. "Lalia, is that you? What are you doing here? And how is the baby? Is she alive?" Kubra gushed, still in disbelief over what was happening. "Yes, she is. She is alive and fine," Lalia responded. She could not help the smile that was formed on her face over Kubra's nervous excitement. "Oh, thank the gods. I wonder if I will ever see her. I could bring her to you if you want," Lalia quickly offered, as if it was the easiest thing to do. Kubra sadly smiled at Lalia's eagerness to show her the baby, but she quietly declined the offer, as she knew only too well what that meant for her baby and even Lalia herself. She could not allow her to take such a risk. "No, she is safer there with you than with me. Look after her, please," Kubra sadly said. She really wished she could take her baby and love her like every mother should, but she could not make that choice. Kunja will have her head the moment he realizes who she really was. As they continued talking, they could both hear the priest as he started murmuring some incantations. They both realized he must have felt Akwala's supernatural presence, and this meant that he had started performing one of his many rituals to fish him out. The incantations had begun to distract Kubra as she felt her eyes almost being forced to open, as Akwala's presence was in her. She knew that this was the effects of Kunja's ritual, so she quickly rushed Lalia from her thoughts. "Go now. I am being compelled to open my eyes," Kubra whispered. "You will see her one day. I'll take you away from this awful place," Lalia reassured her as Kubra cried, feeling her disappear like a distant mirage. Lalia was about to leave her head when she remembered to ask her something. "What name would you like to call her?" "Yours. I want her to be as brave as you are, my dear friend. Teach her all the good things of life." Kubra was about to open her eyes when she heard Lalia's voice echo. "I will tell her stories about you." Kubra had just opened her eyes when she was offered some herbs to drink by one of the guards, claiming that they were to help reduce the pain of childbirth. Unbeknownst to both Kubra and Lalia, the telepathic meeting was the last time they would see each other. Kunja made sure of it since his incantation did not help show where exactly Akwala was. Even though Lalia had promised herself that she would come find her and rescue her someday, her new life of raising and caring for little Lalia had put those plans on hold for a while. Akwala found her a place to stay among the natives of Kingdom Tomo, and Lalia had for 12 years looked after Kubra's daughter, whom she named after herself like her mother wanted. Lalia had become almost human again. She was given a piece of land where she farmed like all the other natives and made a living. She would grow crops and herbs and sell them to look after her little girl.